my
Here we
friend.
go.
Again, my friend.
Here we go.
Again, my friend.
We are here.
With Gigi Perreau.
We're going to talk
Perreau.
about Gigi Perreau.
Perreau.
We are here and we are going to talk about a life in Hollywood. And it's going to be a great hour with Gigi Perreau on a wonderful
chaos.
So if there's one thing we've probably only done once well and 60 some odd times is timed our a wonderful chaos intro together.
Yeah, people sometimes say, I love how you guys lean into the mic.
It's like we have to like tap each other's knee just to like say, okay, now is it. Now is it. So Gigi Perreau, when I started to do these sessions, you go through the first 20 people, friends, easy people to get on, and you test the waters to see how it's going to work. And then you start like in bed, you close your eyes and you say, who would it be fun to spend an hour with? Like, who are people in my life that I haven't spoken to in maybe 30 or 40 years, which have interesting backgrounds that I don't even know that much about, but I kind of have a sense there'd be something curious. And then how fun would it be just to reach out and see if they join? Right?
Yeah.
And Gigi she was my drama teacher when I was a freshman in school. I don't know what my mom did because freshmen weren't supposed to get into drama class, high demand class. So somehow my mom weaseled me into drama class with Gigi. And what I didn't know at the time was Gigi. I didn't even know then because there was no internet, so we couldn't like Google search and see what her VC look or whatever we call it, or CV look like.
Background.
But I went to IMDb and it's a list of like, you scroll down 100, and all these names are in the list of all these people that she's played with, from Rock Hudson, Abbott and Costello, Hitchcock, all of these names, and a lot more. These are only names. And I mean, of course, there's names in there that she wouldn't be impressed by, but I am, like the Brady Bunch, So like, those are the ones that for me, I'm sure she's no like big credit to her name, but those are the fun ones for me to have seen. But she was in so much. And I thought it would be incredibly curious just to sit and discuss what that life looked like, how it progressed, why she ever became a drama teacher and hung out with people like me, And I wrote her an email or a letter it was in Messenger that told her, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, I understand what acting is now. It's allowing a feeling that you can connect to and bringing it back up in yourself. And I said to her, I don't know if I could have ever really acted when I was a kid with her. And we had a little laugh about that. So I'm going to show a first clip. And this, as far as I know, it was a film in the 40s with, it's called Madame Curie. And this is her first television movie appearance. So I'd love to play that now and just start off with that and then bring her right on. Here we go.
Mommy. Oh, here's my baby. This is Eve. Has she been a good baby?
Very good, madame.
Been a good baby, darling?
Yes, we madame.
Did she drink her milk?
Yes.
All right,
We
Yvette.
madame.
Well, keep her out in the air, Yvette. All right, off you go.
The President of April, that's the day, there will be a formal presentation of the laboratory at which the world-famous couple will appear. Not bad, eh? Not bad.
Good morning. Good morning. Morning, Father. Morning, children.
Morning,
What's the matter with this place today? After all, it's no different from any other day, is it? This house is in a turmoil. Everything's upside down, topsy-turvy, nothing in its place. And where's your mother? I haven't seen her for hours. I don't know how I'm going to remember anything. And, oh. Where's my coffee? I'm late. Oh, thank you, Lucille. Don't know where your mother's gone. A house without a woman, I don't understand. Marie!
Mother's in there.
What's she doing in there?
Mother's in there. Mother's in there.
Marie?
So that was it. That was her debut. I believe that was 2 years old. And without further ado,
Yeah, that was the little girl, guys.
that was the little girl.
Hello.
Welcome. She was adorable. I don't know like how you, even at that age, the fact that you were repeating single lines is quite impressive.
Okay, I have to tell you that I was repeating her. I didn't have that line. That was Margaret O'Brien's line. And when they were rehearsing, I just sat there. This is the story that Mervyn Leroy told my mother. I just sat there with a little girl eating I was told to eat the porridge and not look at the camera. So when Margaret said, "Mother's in there," I kind of thought, When they said roll them, and when we actually did the take, only when the film was rolling in the camera did I go, "Mother's in there." So,
but do you think as a child, do you think you were aware that this was going on? I mean, at that young age, I almost thought you probably are like thinking this is just a normal day out meeting friends or something.
No, I knew it was different because it was a sound stage. It was the lights, makeup, seeing what was going on. I'm sure that I knew that it was something special.
Wow.
Yeah. And Margaret's very sweet. We're still good friends, Margaret O'Brien
really?
and I. And
wow.
She's lovely. She's lovely.
And do you really recall it? Because this is what I always find funny for myself. When I look back at memories now and I see a picture, I don't know if I remember it because I see the picture of it or if I actually really remember it.
So I think I remember it because I see the picture and because everyone has told me the story.
Yeah, that's what I could imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember working the following year when I was 3 with Jimmy Durante, and I remember meeting him and looking at him, and he leaned down to say hello to me, and I looked at him and I touched his nose, and I said, "You've got a big nosy nose." And of course, my mother gasped, people gasped, and he just completely cracked up. He just said, "Out of the mouth of babes," So I do remember that because it was, I got such a reaction like, oops, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but there you go.
Because I saw that film with you and Jimmy Durante when, and it's always so weird for me because I'm like looking at this little adorable thing and then I'm like, wow, this is Gigi, like I've never had the connection between these two. And,
it was hard for me when I had my children and somebody would either show a film line or they would see something on television. And when they were really little, and I'd say, "That's me, that's your mommy. I want to play with her." I mean, they couldn't understand that was me as a little person their age, so it's fun. No, I had a wonderful career. I have no regrets.
It reminds me, I've been watching some video of I get The Rock, whatever his name is, The Rock, and he plays this character, cartoon character, the Samoan character, and he sings a song. So he always sings the song to his daughter to see if his daughter will recognize that he's the character in the movie, and the daughter never realizes it, of course. So he's just singing the same song, like, when's she going to figure out that I'm that person in the movie? Yeah. And obviously she never does. Yeah.
So cute.
So when I was looking at and did my Wikipedia search, because I was just sort of I got lost, and then the next thing led to the next thing. And in like the 40s and the 50s, like you were in so many movies with so many big actors at that time that it's you kind of feel like it was the 6 Degrees of Separation. Kevin Bacon. Like basically, it was almost like you were the child actor that went slotted into all these films.
Well, yeah, I did work a lot and I loved it. And I went to school at the same time. I went to Beverly Hills Catholic School, Good Shepherd School. And it was great because when I wasn't working, I was in regular school with my friends, and my brother and my sister. And when I was working, they gave me all my assignments and I just worked with the tutor on the set.
Wow. So it sounds like it wasn't out because you could have the impression, like I saw there was you would be out on, in front of Mann's Chinese Theater and signing autographs and stuff. So there was a bit of that life as well. At that point, in time, you would have been well known, I guess. You wouldn't have been able to walk the streets without people knowing who you were.
Well, sometimes, I was always just kind of plain old me. I think the most interesting part, you're talking about signing autographs and being known, is when I was under contract to Universal Studios. I did about 2 or 3 films in a row, and they wanted to send me on a PA tour to discuss the films and to make public appearances and so on. So we took a train, my mother and I, and the hairdresser and the publicity guy. We took a train to that wonderful. What was the train in those days? Not the Golden Bullet, but the something wonderful anyway. So we took the train to Chicago, and there I kicked off the Christmas Seal campaign. And I was 12, just 12, and they had a little tiny Santa Claus that greeted us. It was Christmas time. And so they said, "Oh, sit on Santa's lap." And I'm sitting on, and I have the funniest pictures. I wish I could find them of me at 12 sitting on this rather petite Santa. I don't know what they were thinking, but anyway. And then we went to New York, and from there, they hooked us up to, I had my own train car, the Gigi Perreau special. And
Oh, really?
And we went up the coast and Boston and did all these appearances, and in my own car, my own railroad car. And then in New York, I lit the Christmas tree in Central Park, where all the ice skaters were. So I got to do some really fun things.
And then that all accumulated in sort of you getting the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame as well, which is quite amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, I was one of the first 50. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, one of the originals.
Yeah.
Like Gigi, as you're talking, I still feel that little girl's there. It's incredible.
Well, you are who you are, I guess. And a performer always. I mean, I could be very depressed right now, but you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it if I was. I'm not. Don't anybody.
That would be my next question.
I know. Maybe I need to talk to Andy privately. No. There are moments now. I mean, let's face it. Everyone all over the world, there are people watching this, I'm sure, all over. It hasn't been easy for anyone. I have a granddaughter who has lived with me since she's 3, and she got into some issues, and she's now at a boarding school out of state. So I don't have her with me. I have another adorable little girl whom I am her legal guardian. She just turned 15. Her mother passed away 2 years ago, and asked me to take care of her. And what do you say?
Yeah.
So, but she is now with friends and has been quarantined with some very close friends that are just around the corner. So basically, I'm alone. I have never, ever in my life lived alone. And here I am, pushing a big birthday coming up next year. And this is the first time in my life I've lived alone. I do have my cute little dog. Sally is adorable. But basically, it's been very interesting. I was married the first time at 19, and I went from my parents' home the night before to the church and off to a honeymoon. And then, of course, I started having children right away, so never alone. And then when I was divorced, of course, I had my 2 children. And then when I remarried, my first real boyfriend, who was the assistant director, and I was doing the Brady Bunch that everybody talks about and saw. And so I hadn't seen him in all these years, and he said, "You're divorced?" Oh my gosh, he was so surprised. Miss Goody Two Shoes, Miss Catholic Mother of the Year. And I said, "No, it's no my problem. I had nothing to do with this. This is, when you're dumped, you're dumped." And so he said, "Oh, well, great, because we'll be married by December." And we're having lunch for the first time in 10 years. And we were.
Wow.
And we were
like
together 26 years. Yeah.
26.
Yeah.
And then?
And then I was dumped again. No,
Like,
he just left. Actually, I had just finished directing some stuff at Immaculate Heart High School, which is where I taught after Notre Dame. And I got home late, and it was our 26th wedding anniversary. And I said, "Oh, let me jump in the shower." Just got back, and I said, "And I'll be ready so we can go out to dinner." And he said, "Oh, don't bother, I'm leaving."
wow.
Wow.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That was a very difficult. I would say about 4 to 6 months. I was numb. I was numb.
And it didn't lead up from there. Was there any clue that would actually happen, or was it just
Not really. Not really. Not really. He had been more involved in doing some airplane stuff. He was a airplane nut, and we always had an airplane that he was restoring in our garage. And he was going down to San Diego, San Diego area quite a bit to do some stuff, and I didn't realize he had reconnected with his grammar school girlfriend or middle school girlfriend.
Mm.
So anyway, and it was quite a shock, I have to say. And my reaction was I was sort of numb. I would find myself driving at 80 miles an hour going, oh, oops, I'm going too fast. And then I would get wherever I got, close the door to my car, and my keys would be locked in the car.
Wow.
Every time I went anywhere. I mean, it was like I wasn't quite connecting. And so went to Auto Club and got that little card with a key in it that you pushed out, and hiding keys all over the place. But I survived, and had at that point now 4 kids. 4 kids.
2 plus 2.
2 plus 2 is 4. I was not a math. One funny thing, Andy, you'll laugh. When I started teaching, and so many people said to me, "My gosh, you're teaching! How wonderful! What are you teaching?" And I'd say, "Nuclear physics." Really? And I go, "What do you think I'm teaching? What is the only thing I've known since I was a baby?" And they go, oh, that's great. So anyway, it was always I thought, a funny line.
Yeah. Keep in mind
You
that her daughter was also my grade, so we went to school together the whole time.
Got you.
Yeah.
One more. You mentioned the word disconnected and connected, right? If you're working as an actress for so many hours and like on a regular basis, like at some point, where do you find the time? And having also 4 children, where do you find the time to connect to Gigi? Not the celebrity. Like the doors are closed. Where and how did you do that?
Okay, I think because I was always Gigi, and having 2 parents that were very supportive, and my dad always used to say, what you do makes people pay a lot of attention to you, and you have a certain, notoriety. You're famous in some areas, and he'd say, "But I have to tell you, Gigish," with his wonderful French accent. He would say, "If you were a plumber, if you were and he would name all these things, and you did the best, you were the best plumber in the whole world, and you tried your best," he said, "I would be just as proud of you as I am of you being an actress." So I always kind of had that feeling that what I did was a job that happened to get a lot more attention, but that was really a job that I just had to do my best because that's what I was expected to do. I just think that support from my parents and the disconnect by feeling that it was a job, and hopefully a job well done each different time. You then came home, and people don't go to their job and then bring, or maybe they do, but maybe they shouldn't, and bring that job home. And when you're home, you're still doing you're the person that you are. So the disconnect comes from knowing when you're doing your job, and then knowing when you're home, and you leave that. And then there's certain time you have to set aside to learn your lines for the next day. So you do your thing. My kids and I, we always had a dinner together. Had a really very normal life. Plus, you have to remember, in those days, it wasn't the big business that it is now. I mean, when you think of some of the kid actors, those adorable twin girls who are now billionaires. It was under contract. I was under contract. I think the most I ever made was $250 a week. And now they're making, you do a TV episode, Friends, $1 million per episode. Yeah. So it was a different time. It was I don't know, you kind of did it because you really loved the art and the work. You didn't do it for the money per se, although I'm sure many of the men actors and actresses I worked for that was their job, and they did it, and they were making, of course, some good money. But it just was the whole impetus, I think, was quite different. And I don't know, it was just fun. It was just fun. Never any pressure.
So you didn't feel in that time, you'd say as a kid, you really just had a lot of fun doing this.
I had a lot of fun. I took it very seriously. I think I was probably a rather disciplined person as a child. But I remember when I had to make a choice between making my confirmation with my classmates at Beverly Hills Catholic School, Good Shepherd Church. I was offered an amazing movie, and went to talk to Monsignor Concannon, who was our pastor, and he said, very honestly, if you do the film, you will miss the whole, beginning time of confirmation, the classes, and so on. And he said, I would not allow you to make your confirmation at that time. And so I said, I'm making my confirmation. I mean, I wasn't even sad about it. It was just my priorities that had been instilled in me by my parents. By the way, Andy, my mother is 102 years old.
No,
I've seen pictures of her when you guys have gone out.
Well, and now she's in bed mostly, but she's got a wonderful, adorable caregiver. I see her all the time. She's going to be 103 in August. And she can't believe I have a big poster that we all signed for her 102nd birthday. And it's right, her bed is here, and right on her chest of drawers over there, the big TV set and the chest of drawers. And she goes, 102? Who's 102? I'm like, hi, Mom. She's horrified. She can't believe she's
incredible.
102.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I have been super blessed.
Yeah, but again with you, like, look at your energy. You said that you're 80.
I will be. Not quite.
You will.
No,
Sorry.
I will be next year. Yeah, pushing 80. I'm trying to push it back a little bit. No,
but your energy is like, you have such a fire in you. Like, I know people who are in their 20s.
I mean, I'm working. Do you know what I mean? It's fun. Again, fun work. I'm getting to see Andy after how many years? How many years?
It's been a lot of years. I mean, we're talking 30s, probably 30 years.
I think so, but it's like you're still there sitting in the classroom. I mean, you know what I mean? It's time goes by, and people. Some of my former students will send me pictures of their babies and so on, and they'll say, oh, "Already she's 6 months old," or "Oh, she just turned a year," and I send back a little adorable baby. Don't blink, just don't blink, because it goes by so fast. My twin grandsons, Gina, my oldest daughter's twin boys, just turned 22. Yeah. And they were little babies. I have pictures of me holding these two babies. Also, that was exactly the time that I was going through breast cancer. And so I now know whenever it's their birthday that's a year. So it's been 22 years. And as I said, I'm really, really, I must have had at that point in my life, the man or the woman upstairs saying, "You've got more to do, lady." You got to get better. So, Thank goodness. Knock on wood. Somewhere wood. My desk. Yeah. Yeah. So it's been fun, and I love so many of the people that I worked with.
Yeah. A lot of names that people today might not know, but they're like everyone in Hollywood is kind of in your realm of who you've worked with.
Well, I had to adjust when I started teaching, because I remember the first year. At one point, I was teaching at both Notre Dame and Immaculate Heart, and then Immaculate Heart said, "No, we want you more." But I remember talking about some things and giving some experiences to kind of let them, know what I had been through as a kid and so on. And I mentioned, and this was mid to late 80s. Pardon me. I mentioned Debbie Reynolds.
Uh-huh.
Princess Leia's mother.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean from? So I thought, no more. I never mention names after that, unless it was someone that was absolutely current, And the girls were so cute at Immaculate Heart. They used to give me, they'd say something, and I'd go, "What does that mean?" Or "This is really boss," or "This is that." So they'd make lists for me of the cool things, because they kept saying, "You gotta stay cool." My drama classes at Notre Dame and at Immaculate Heart, where I taught for 23 years, everyone in my class was not going to be an actor or a director or producer. It was a class. I felt that my contribution could be giving these young people the self-esteem and the knowledge that they could get up and do it. They could speak in front of a group. They could relate to other people just by working on their listening skills. And I would say to them, "You're not all going to be actors, maybe one or two." And there are one or two that are quite famous. Yeah. But I said, maybe one or two of you are going to be, but you're going to be moms. You're going to be head of the PTA. You're going to be lawyers. You're going to be doctors. You're going to be all these other things. And you're going to need these skills. You're going to need your acting skills. Do you think that the attorneys in court are actors?
Yeah, I was when I started. First job I got, like a proper job. I was hired to speak for 2 hours to IT managers about technology, and I knew nothing about technology, so I had to act like I knew what I was talking about. So the first day I did my presentation, I just threw up. I went right to the toilet and I threw up, and then I remember calling someone and laughing and saying, "Oh, now I know why I took the acting classes." Because basically just act like you know what you're talking about, and it might work out.
Right.
So it did work out.
It did. Yeah.
I was at a Zoom meeting last night of some of the African American young women who went to Immaculate Heart. They're now trying to help with the curriculum and make some difference in life. And one of the young women, I looked at her and I went, "Oh my God." She is now, she was one of my drama students. Just the last year, she had to take one more class or something. And she's now a principal of a school. She has a PhD in something. And she said, "Oh, Gigi, I'm so glad you're on this Zoom call." She said, "Because I just want to tell you that I didn't have a voice until my senior year when I met you and had your class." And she said, "I found my voice and I knew I had a voice and that I could get up and speak." And she said, "And now I'm a principal and I talk a lot." And I just looked at her and I said, "Listen," she said, "I'm going to cry. I'm so happy to see you." And I said, "Well, I'm going to cry too." And I really teared up because I said, if you can just make a tiny difference in someone's life like that, and anyway,
I think I owe you my first sexual experience as well.
I don't think you do, really.
Well,
Andy.
Let's agree that you created an intimacy in the environment. And one of the women that was in our drama class junior year, basically, she just like, I wasn't prepared for that act, but somehow she was very clear on what her desires were. And from that, I actually got to have my first sexual experience. I owe it all to my drama 2 class.
Oh
We
my
won't name
God.
this person. I don't even think
No.
she knows she was the first.
Oh my gosh. No, it's and so in teaching or in trying to encourage these young women and at Notre Dame boys too, about public speaking and self-esteem and just how to make a difference. You come to the podium, so many of the kids that give a speech and they come to the podium and they start speaking. And I said, you come to the podium, take a deep breath, you find your center, and you make contact with your audience. You look at them. And then you start to speak. And then when you finished.
True.
And again, the deep breath, find your, and you don't just go, and then such and so happened, and you're out of there. You have to really make that connection. And then a lot of my classes were just in a very academic school situation. Notre Dame and Immaculate Heart are both college prep, very academic, that's priority, of course. But my class was always a place where the kids could kind of come in, take the shoes off, relax. And sometimes the girl would come in sobbing because her boyfriend had, reached her and so on and so forth and was breaking up or whatever. And it was just a chance. And I was a bit of a rebel, I know, at Immaculate Heart because, in learning how to be a teacher, and learning about learning modalities. I didn't know anything about learning modalities, but I sure learned. But I was a rebel in that they said, well, we can't touch our students. You must be very careful not to touch the students and never in a room with a closed door and so on, and no hugging. And I said, I told the head sister there, I said, well, then I said, I can't teach. I said, I'm a mom. And I said, these kids are my kids. They're my kids. And they come in and I hug them and I'm sorry. And she said, oh, well, we can make an exception for you. It's like, you're harmless.
It's drama. By the way, we have a very active person here that somehow knows a lot of your background. Moreno Jorge. Yorka.
Yes.
He's wants us to ask you about Sal Mineo.
Sal Mineo. Actor. You don't know the name?
No, that's
at a very young age.
Really?
Oh, you'll have to look up Sal Mineo. He's not. Sal Mineo was at Universal Studios when I was, and I had a big crush on him. He was adorable. And my first real date was with Sal, with the limo and the little white fox fur thing. And we went to some premiere. And I think I was a sophomore, junior at Immaculate Heart. And at the end of our little thing, Sal Mineo kissed me on the cheek, but he kissed me. I didn't tell the girls that. So they said, did he kiss you? And I went, yes. They were so jealous because he was really kind of a heartthrob. He was about 2 years older than me. And it turned out that he had a difficult life after a certain age. And I think he was actually murdered.
Wow.
In Hollywood. Yeah.
And
but Sal Mineo is very cute.
He seems to also know
Yes.
Your first screen kiss was a handsome Troy Donahue.
Right. Absolutely.
I think Moreno should be doing this interview.
Well, I think he knows more. Jorge knows more about me and my career, I think, than any human being in the world. He's in Spain. He has a little, I don't know, some kind of a museum. A gentleman, Gary Brumbach, did a 16-page article on me on a magazine, Sin is Something. And I tried to find it because I was going to show you. I can't find it, a copy of it. But anyway, it was Jorge who sent all the photographs. Really? He has all the photos. And he'll say, do you want to see the rifleman you did? It's on YouTube, and he'll tell me where to go and how to see it. And I watched a lot of things that I had never seen before because Jorge would say, do you want to see that? Oh, I've got that.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah. You mean he's watching now?
Yeah, he's writing. He's basically said he has a room dedicated to you. So he's really he knows everything about you. In fact, he's going to hijack the show if we put his comments on, because he's talking about Tony Curtis and
the 12th birthday,
and boys he kissed her, and handsome Tony Curtis at his commissary.
Yeah. I mean, we could go, an hour, Andy. When you're,
I think he's got to do his own he's got to do his own interview with you.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying an hour is when this Gary Brumbick interviewed me. He said, I need about an hour of your time. I'm writing this article. 5 hours later, sitting in my living room right here, we were still talking, and finally I said, I gotta go. I can't talk anymore. But and we're still friends, Facebook friends. He's moved. He's a singer, and
wow. By the way, I'd love to play another clip just to sort of show the progression, because you weren't always just an adorable baby. There was this other episode of The Rifleman, which I'd love to show as well, and just to show you in some later work.
You beat us. You make us into something not even human. You call us names you are yourself till there's no escape from the fear of you. Not even in sleep.
Put that down, you hear? Before I have a mind to take this rope and wait a minute. You're all head up? You ain't thinking. If it weren't for the softness in me, I'd whack the breath out of you. Now you give me that.
Get away from you, David.
You hear what I say?
Get away from the wall.
We have to stop it before the ad comes on. We have the YouTube ads, otherwise we would have finished it. Yeah. How does it feel to watch that?
That was one of my favorite shows. I really wanted to do that. I got the script, and I remember going to Universal. I think that's where the offices were. And I read the script, and I said, I have to do this. This is such an amazing role. Peter Whitney was played, I think, my dad or the uncle or something, bad guy. And he was beating me and my little brother, and finally had it, and I thought, oh. And what was really interesting is Peter Whitney looks like such a big bad guy, and he was the softest teddy bear. And there were a couple of scenes where he actually is hitting us or something, and he just said, this is so terrible, I can't do this. I mean, he was so sensitive and so sweet, but he was a wonderful actor. But he always played the bad guy, but he was probably one of the sweetest. He was like a big teddy bear. But no, that was a good show. I wanted to do that, and I got the I actually had to read for it.
Yeah,
I read for it, and I'm so bad at names, Andy. The director said to me, that's exactly what I want. He said, I don't even want to direct you. He said, I'm going to treat the whole show with you is I've got the reins, and you're leading me, but you're going to get free rein. Something that was a first thing. He said, I'm giving you the reins. And, what I loved about acting, and what I love maybe even more in directing. In acting, it's you really have to do what the director wants you to do. Even if there were several things that I did that I was not that convinced was the right way to do it. Mm-hmm. But because I was directed to do it that way, I did. I think what I love about directing is that you get to be the one in charge. You get to be the one making those decisions. But I found what I learned from all the incredible directors that I worked with in my life, the most successful ones and the best ones were the ones that really collaborated with the actor. At least they would let you present what you wanted to do. Let me see it. They would say. And then they'd say, yeah, but it's got to be a little more angry, or it's got to be a little sadder, or it's got to be, and then you kind of went with it. But it's such a give and take. I don't know.
You give them a baseline. You give them a baseline, and then they can decide to amp or, like a soundboard. But if you don't actually get a chance to say, this is how I'd interpret it, Basically, you
Right.
don't get to add any of your own creativity to it.
Right.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Yeah. Have you been able to see the Netflix series Hollywood at all?
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite funny. Bambos doesn't like watching this stuff usually, so this is I'm taking the liberty here.
This is new territory.
But I thought it was entertaining, but a farce. So I didn't actually
Yeah.
take it seriously. But I had a friend who vehemently, like I would say, despised it because he said the portrayal of the characters was so off that and it would have been better not to have named the characters because it was like to Rock Hudson specifically. He said to portray him the way they portrayed him was like just an injustice.
Oh, I agree. I watched it and with a fascination maybe, because that sure as heck wasn't the Hollywood that I knew. Well, obviously because I was a kid, but also I just felt it was so far fetched, and I you know, I don't know. There were a lot nicer people around than what was portrayed.
I was actually telling you before, I was nervous to bring up how it was from just the sexual tension that might have been there, because after having watched that movie, you'd almost think anyone there was molested. Like that's how the portrayal was so harsh on some level that that I was even anxious to bring that up with you before I discussed it with you before we came on. And I mean, your take on it was, as I heard, that there was an issue you ever saw or dealt with.
Right. And I know there was some of that. I know some of that with the agent. That was all kind of an unknown thing. I mean, he was the one who named all these actors. You know, he was a big agent, and Cab Hunter, Troy, Rock Hudson. But that was not a part of anything that I would even have known about or thought about. I mean, I worked with Rock Hudson. He was a gentleman and a wonderful guy. He was just very, very nice, and was tragic. It was tragic what he had to go through in his career. You know, at that time. I mean, it's got to be such a relief now to so many people that it's no longer even an issue. It's no longer even an issue. But I know for him, it just from knowing the little bit I've known about him since, and knowing some friends that knew him very well, it was not easy. It was not easy.
Because at the time, he wasn't out that he was gay at that moment, I don't think.
No, not for the public. I think the industry knew it because they knew who his agent was, and that he changed his name. He was one of the boys or whatever. But no, and to keep that, and not just a movie star went through that. So many young people at that time were going through, just the shame, the whatever. And my brother was gay.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know it till we were till I was like 17, 18.
And he was older.
Yeah, 3 years older.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, at that time, I don't think people realize, because if you were raised at a time when there's far more tolerance, you don't actually get to see how intolerant society was then.
Mm.
Right.
And it's like progressively people begin to, it's like the water you swim in becomes the normalcy. And you can't imagine a time when that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's sort of why I was happy to have left America, because in some areas, especially when it came to race relations, I was never feeling like this place was clean. Every place has its own, messiness, but it was always like, this place feels so, there's just an injustice here that never felt good to me.
Well, let's face it, especially right now, there are so many injustices in the world. I mean, we've just drifted away from I don't know. I'm trying to think of the words that could express. People are just, a lot of people are just not very nice.
tolerance has, it's either like you have to, it's always so radical. That's the hard thing for me. It's like, where did moderation come in? Where did the idea like, hey, like I'm happy, this is my life, I don't have to impose anything on anyone else. When did it ever become that the belief was so important to me that you living your happy life meant that it jeopardized my happy life? It's just, I can go on for ages on this topic because it makes me crazy.
Well, now, Andy, you're now in Amsterdam. What has prompted you to do this kind of a show? And how did you meet your charming co-host?
So Bambos was pretty much homeless when I met him. Would you say that?
Yeah.
Virgin there. It wasn't that bad, but he was, and he had so much determination and so much will, and he didn't have the love of the role model that helped one see this is kind of how you navigate life. And I said, when I see someone with that much determination, then I just support. It's just how I work in life. So, I don't give a person determination. They decide that for themselves, but the guidance and the love and the support I can give.
Yeah.
Well,
and,
that's, that's one of the things that I haven't mentioned about my teaching. And that is that I felt that my job as a teacher was basically a nurturer, because there were several students who really were not academic. They were not going to make it, but they were incredibly talented, either singing, dancing, doing acting, whatever. And I would have the powers that be say, so-and-so, I think we're not, I don't think she's going to make it here at this school because she's, she just can't cut it in that. And I said, yes, but she's so brilliant in this other area. And to me, our job is to nurture the talents of the students.
Yeah.
And if it isn't academic, then it isn't academic. So you don't have to have 100% that go to a 4-year college. You can have 95%, and you can have 2% who go to a 2-year college, and you can have 3% who don't go to college.
Yeah,
who become an apprentice somewhere.
Well, I mean, that whole model is changing now. So the whole world has shifted its understanding of throwing people into an education where jobs don't exist on the back end. So that whole industrial revolution, institutional thinking is sort of out the window at the moment. So what it becomes is going to be really curious. But I believe where you are speaking to, what we speak to a lot on the show, is where does a self-determined individual who gets agency over their own learning and growth, where do they develop, and how does that evolve? And that's exciting and scary for people at the same time. What do you do with all these universities we built with all these billions of dollars?
Theater schools.
What do you do with them, right? The system, it's a military industrial complex. You put the money in, you need to get the students there. It doesn't necessarily make sense that there's no work on the back end, but we need to keep the system afloat. Yeah. So it really needs to have a major rehaul. I'd love to show something else, by the way. We have 10 minutes left, and I know you've probably seen this 100 times over.
I want to see.
But I think it's fun, and we're not going to show the video. We're going to show something a little bit more contemporary here, and obviously what I'm showing. What I thought was really cool was that as your student is, of course, Meghan Markle. We have that video, which was from you at the wedding when she was doing her thing. And I'd love just to quickly do a quick show. So this is Meghan Markle. I assume this is right after she got married, and you're right in the audience.
I was in the ITV.
She saw you. She saw you.
I love how that got international news. That she turned to you and said, "Hello, there's my teacher from high school." It made.
Well, I don't think she said that. I think she just looked and went, I can't believe she.
I was thinking about her head. What was going on in her head?
Those horses don't stop. They're constantly going, and And I had done some interviews and I did some commentary on the wedding. So it was, they said, oh, well, when the thing comes by, go up to the fence right in front of our tent thing there. And I had an Immaculate Heart banner in my hand. I thought that might get her attention. And maybe it was that, maybe not. But anyway, just at one point, just before I'm here and she's here, and she was looking elsewhere and turned and was looking in the audience, as actors can do. And she went, I was like, oh my God. And I was really surprised because I hadn't seen Meghan in 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
So, 18, 20 years. So I certainly had changed, I know.
You're
but
aging
maybe
well.
not at that point. Maybe not that.
Yeah, but your expression was priceless.
Yes. How cool is that to know that somehow you're, through the influences, you're intermingling with these people and they're going on to do really remarkable things in the world.
Well, I think she had. I'm kind of still in limbo about reasons as to why she and her husband are now in Hollywood, in LA. But I think, just as her mother-in-law did, I think somehow the royals have an opportunity to really do an amazing job. All over the world. I really do. Yeah. I think they can be influential in a very positive way. And I think of anybody, everyone said, oh, are you surprised that she's marrying royal? And I said, if anybody can handle the pressure, if anybody can handle it, it's Meghan. And now maybe even Meghan it was too. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
the character of the people you're around. Yeah.
And, she's an amazing woman. Extremely talented, extremely well-spoken. I worked with her for 5 years. Even her last year in the middle school, she kind of snuck in, was in the chorus. So I got to know Meghan very, very well, and her dad very, very well.
I liked how, because of course everyone was throwing his dad under the bus. So right. It was nice to see how because it's so easy. You know how it is. Everyone has a narrative, and they all want to create it and make it and embellish wherever possible. And I liked how you came out and basically didn't allow anyone to project and create a caricature of him that portrayed him as this horrible, terrible person.
Yeah, no, I made it very clear when they called and they wanted me to go to England and so on. I said, number one, you're not going to get anything negative from me about Meghan or about her family, her dad. I said, he was an amazing help to me. He worked at Immaculate Heart on every show that we did for 4, 5, 6 years. Wow. Did the technical stuff, worked with the girls, taught them lighting, taught them things, would bring, on a Saturday we'd work late and he'd say, oh, I gotta go to the hardware store, and he'd come back with food for everybody, for the whole cast and crew. No, he was
the record. Bumbus might not know. He doesn't follow this stuff. Bumbus, he was really ravaged by the media. Her father. So
Meghan's dad. He still is.
Yeah, he still is. Yeah,
he still is, and I think that I don't think that rift has been healed at all, and I just hope that it will be at some point.
No.
But that was really fun.
What would be what would you say if you went to the extremes? What was your favorite role of all time, and what was your least favorite role of all time?
My favorite role is that rifleman.
Okay.
And my least favorite role is how I looked basically in Man in the Gray Flannel Suit.
Uh-huh. And it was just because of how you looked in it.
Well, it was how I looked, and it was wrong. The casting was wrong. I was 14 years old. I had a business manager or a publicist, I think she was, who said, now you got to get from the 14 to 18. You don't want to do those awkward ages. You got to just grow up. So here was the role of Frederick March's 18-year-old daughter. And she said, I've got an interview for you. And I'm now 14, maybe almost 15. And I put on a black suit of my mother's with a peplum in this great blouse and high heels and did the hair up and makeup like you wouldn't believe. And I go and I meet Nunley Johnson, who was the producer, director. And he said, I love your work. I really would love to have you do this role. But he said, you just seem a little too young for me for the role. Now, there was no way I was going to ever look any older than that until maybe 5 years ago. And I said, Mr. Johnson, I said, just imagine with the right makeup and hair and clothes, I could, of course, look older. And he bought it because he really wanted me to do the role. And it was just wrong. It was just wrong. People liked it.
When did you know?
So good.
When did you know it was wrong?
When I got it from the beginning.
Oh, really? From the beginning?
From the beginning. Yeah.
Isn't it
I
interesting?
wanted it. It was just, you don't have the experience. I mean, she walks into his office and he says, can I get you a soft, or like a Coca-Cola? Can I get you something? He says to his daughter, who's supposed to be 18. And she says, I'll have scotch on the rocks.
Yeah.
Me, I'll have scotch on the rocks. Okay. 14, 15-year-old scotch on the rocks person. And then she was dating this much, much older guy in his 50s or 60s or something. And I like what I did with it. I don't like the angle of the camera. Frederick March was the big star, and they shot my profile, which was not a good angle. And it was about an 8 or a 10-minute scene. We did it in one take. Frederick March was just so phenomenal to work with. And then when they did my close-up over the shoulder, he did, he gave it all. He was wonderful. But maybe other people would believe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of people really liked it, thought I was wonderful and so on. But I looked at it and I didn't think I was wonderful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting how in life, when we push things, oftentimes when they weren't meant to happen and we push them afterwards, we realize they weren't meant to happen.
Yes.
Like
exactly.
I had someone today, I wrote somebody to join the show and they said, Andy, they kind of gave not resistance, but they weren't jumping on it. I'm like, don't do it. I mean, it's because if you're not enjoying being here, then it won't be good anyway. So why would we do that to either of us?
Nice.
It does feel that way in life for me nowadays. I mean, the more you push things, the less they just feel right. Yeah. And you nowadays, are you looking for roles? Are you getting roles? Like, what's the current state?
I can't get an agent. I would love to do some. There's got to be roles for little old ladies. But I've done some voiceover stuff for my daughter. Not enough. But I would like to be working. I mean, it would be nice to make a little extra money in my old age too. Because right now I'm on my pensions and I'm one of those senior citizens who's on a fixed income. So.
And so
I'm very lucky.
You have to get so you don't have an agent right now.
No.
So you need to first get the agent, and the agent kind of feeds you work.
Also, let's face it, I am so technically challenged that the business is different. You used to go on interviews one-on-one. I can talk to you and neither I'm right for the role or not. Now you have to just send in a video of yourself.
Oh, is that right?
Work, or if you're going to do a voiceover, you have to send a little whatever thing, and they listen to it. And before my dear friend Eddie Foy III passed away, he was a big casting director in Hollywood. And Eddie, the last 15 years, said all I did was sit in my office and get a DVD or a videotape, and watch 20 to 30 seconds, and then boom, the next one, and then boom, the next.
Wow.
So it's difficult.
It seems like it's commoditized a lot. it's a little bit democratized because you can find a lot more people, but it's also like you're just another number in that way.
Exactly. I actually went on a commercial interview for one line. A woman. This was about 8 years ago. One line, and there were 62 women in the hallway waiting. This was one where they did want to videotape you and send it back to New York. 62 women. You know, I was lucky to be working in a time when your reputation, and I mean, if they had a role and it was a good role for a little girl and she had to cry a lot, they'd say, "Oh, Gigi," you know. And if it was a little bit older, it was Margaret O'Brien. You know, we were the two big criers. But
Love it.
but
I love it.
I didn't have to audition a lot, and so it was a little bit of a shock when I got older and realized that if I was going to work, I had to audition. But you know, I raised my kids, and I did a lot of, believe me, I did a lot of work. I was very involved with the March of Dimes. Mother's March chairman Jane Wyatt got me involved in that, and I did a lot of you know, different presentations.
Just to make sure we don't lose this opportunity. So we see that Moreno, I'm not pronouncing his name, Jorge, works as an agent. So please, Gigi, become one. We can work together with Almodovar. So we very well might have found you the next.
Well, yeah, but I have to go to Spain. I have to go to Spain.
Spain's a great place.
You know what? I would not mind. My family is all in France. I would not mind now. My kids are all grown. My granddaughter is 17, and hopefully when she gets back from boarding school, she'll be able to be on her own a little more.
And Spanish men, I mean, come on, Spanish men. There's something attractive about Spanish men. Why do you look at me like that?
No, there's something attractive about a lot of men, not just Spanish men. But no, that hasn't been a part of my life for a long time. I have to say, I would love the companionship of being with someone at this point.
Let's see if we can find someone in the comments. Give us
but I'm doing okay by myself.
Beautiful.
But someone said, "What is the worst part of you being alone now for the first time, living alone?" And I said, "I don't have someone or people to do things for. You know, I don't cook myself. I'll have a salad or do something because I'm so used to taking care of people. And what do you want for dinner? Where can I drive you? Oh, let's go to the mall and, you know, do such and such." Or when you're a mom of 4 kids and then you know, they grow and then you have grandkids, it's like, that's what I enjoy doing is. And then I discovered, when the pandemic started, I thought, I'm going to go with my older neighbors and so on. And I'd have people knocking on my door and I'd think, I'm the older neighbor. I'm the one they're checking out. It was such a shock. I thought,
isn't that scary?
How you doing? It was scary because I was thinking, I better check up on older people. There aren't any older people here. There aren't any older than me. There are a couple that are probably my age.
You're giving everyone else's life meaning.
It's incredible. So here, I'm the one that they're checking on. So what can I say? What can I say?
Well, anyway, listen, we
I know we're almost over, but I would just like to say that I am so proud of you and what you have done with your life and your amazing book. And your partner here is absolutely charming in his own inimitable way. I don't know what to say. The reactions and you really bounce off each other very, very well. And he's a great sidekick. He's a great sidekick for you. I'm very impressed with both of you, gentlemen. You should be very happy.
Yeah, we've been enjoying this ride and sort of letting it take us where it goes. So it's been a real joy.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
I hope everyone's enjoyed this. I hope you have. I've enjoyed being with you.
I've loved being with you. It was incredible.
This is great.
So we send you both a hug, and please send a hug to Danielle for me as well. I haven't seen her in as long as I haven't seen you. So
hopefully she'll watch this, right?
Yeah, she will see this for sure. Love you.
Bye, Gigi.
Bye. Love you.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, wow. That was fun. I know you always say, Andy, you're going down memory lane all the time with this, but I think, isn't it great? I can kind of have like that this is my high school reunion, except I have it with each individual in my high school.
I don't think I can do that with my past.
I know. I mean, without going into too much detail, you'd have to say, what was that one drug addict that used to sleep on the bench? Is it like that? I mean, would you say, wow, I could invite people on, I'd feel like I could connect with them back to a point when I actually felt good?
Like right now, I like nothing comes to mind. Like I do have friends from back then.
Yeah.
But also we are looking for people with a specific flavor, right?
Yeah, someone who's just a backstory. I mean, if one of your friends really had a rough backstory but felt comfortable sharing it, that would obviously be beautiful to have with. Yeah, they'd be on with. So for me, what I find fascinating, and it was really nice with Gigi, is that if I look at this life, right, it's so curious that, we didn't get into the story, but Gigi was brought with her brother who was going for a film, and she wasn't even intending to get a role, and all of a sudden they pulled her on and put her on a movie. And I find it incredibly fascinating. If you think to yourself how life works, like every time we have guests on, it's always almost like there's a accident that happens, and through the accident, a life materializes. With Juan, he basically held up the free hug sign. All of a sudden, his life changes forever. With the woman, Kathy Del Hante, who got seven bags of yarn from a dead friend, and then she has the largest homeless knitting community.
Yeah,
and it's I always think to myself that in the planning of life, things obviously also happen, but there's some level of just random chaos of things happening, and then we just move from there, and then a life materializes. And I think it's hard for people to accept how random life can be, because if we accept how random it is, then somehow we have to like surrender to the fact that maybe I don't have all the control that I want to believe I have.
Zero.
Yeah. I might wake up and have cancer tomorrow. How comfortable am I being okay with that reality and moving from there and saying, okay, this is where I am right now. Right. So, just, what a great opportunity just to spend time with someone who's had such a rich history.
I can't believe what an amazing woman she is.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And to see when I met her, she'd gone through all that. I was born in 1970. She already had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1960. So by the time I became, in 1986, when we first met, basically, her whole backstory was another generation. So I basically met her sort of the next phase of her life, which is it's really wonderful to now say all the things I didn't even know back then are now available because of YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was great. And tomorrow, you have anything to add?
I look forward to watching some of her movies now.
Yeah, the movies are all available. If you go to IMDb and look for Gigi Perreau, then you'll see like hundreds of them kind of listed, and you can click on any one, and they're almost always on YouTube, including the Brady Bunch episode where Greg Brady falls in love with her, which is a really fun one. Tomorrow we have on Rob Havasey, Surfing and Art. I haven't spoken to him yet. It's a bit confused, so I'll need to confirm the time and if Balmus is going to be here. But we hopefully will have that show on at that time, and I'll let you know in the meantime. Yeah. And we look forward to seeing you next time on A Wonderful Chaos. Bye-bye.